Yes, everyone, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here, joined by Philip and Jacob from USA Spurs, Philip from THFC Till I Die. Doing kind of a bit of an evening news headlines kind of here, guys. Haven't done one of these in a while. Unfortunately, it's going to be some quite sad news with the case of Harry Kane. And apparently, Paul O'Keefe has come out today, a very trusted news source for the Tottenham fan base. And he has come out and said that Spurs fans are going to have to start preparing for life without Harry Kane after this summer. So everybody get the tissues out, everybody, because it is going to be very difficult, probably for plenty of the Harry Kane fans to hear that sort of news. I know probably David is even sulking as we speak, hearing this type of news today. It's just everything has somehow gotten worse after that North London derby 2-0 defeat. Antonio Conte maybe could be sacked, or is probably kind of conflicting with the board right now. Harry Kane is his future is maybe not really headed the right way when it comes to Spurs and everything. Just not good. Just not a good week. And so maybe that's why we brought in some happy faces here with the case of Philip and Jacob here. Start with Philip. I don't need you to be a happy clapper or anything today, Philip, but I brought, a trusted source. I brought a trusted friend here today, Philip. So thanks for joining me for this evening news headlines. And we'll do our best here today. We'll do our best.
Yeah, did you ever hear the song "Behind the Painted Smile"? I think that sums up a lot of Spurs fans tonight. Oh well.
It's like that classic meme, I think, as well, of the guy holding up the painted smile with the crying face behind. Jacob, how we doing? Haven't
Yeah.
had you on the channel for one of these headlines before, but and the nice guy that I am, I decided to bring on for a pretty sad one. Let's be honest. So it just shows the kind person that I am.
Thank you, Jack, for always thinking about me. Hey, if you think about me in the lowest of lows, when we reach the highest of highs, hopefully you'll think of me then too, because this is just one of those things. I think it's part of the roller coaster ride, right? You
Mm,
got to enjoy the ride for what it is. It's going to have its downs, it's going to have its ups and twists and turns. Either way you handle it, man, you got to um, always just try and like keep yourself happy, because if you let the on-field productivity or lack thereof dictate your happiness, you're gonna right now you're not gonna be very much of a happy camper. So I just think, with this thing about Kane, it's something that I think at least I was warmed up to, because there was that summer that he was trying to run off to City, and
right.
so I'm a little warmed up to the idea. So it's not completely foreign to me. It does suck because it's like he's been in my good graces for about 7 months now, because I
Sure.
finally forgave him for that attempt to leave us. Um, but at this point, maybe we just need to burn it all down and build it back up from the ground. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not qualified for that.
That's what
But
we're
what
here
I
for, though, Jacob. We're here to find the answers, or at least attempt to get to an answer with some of these. But also just kind of reporting on the news here at the same time, just informing everybody of what's sort of going on around the Tottenham hemisphere. But I'm with you, kind of where there was that sort of period where we kind of did have to maybe come to terms with Kane leaving Spurs and everything. He had that interview with Gary Neville, and on the golf course and whatnot. It was just not good things for us to see. Everybody else was enjoying it that wasn't a Spurs fan, but they Spurs fans were definitely not. And we had to maybe think about Harry leaving, but we were able to sort of bring in Antonio Conte last minute in desperation to convince him to stay. And I feel like maybe that just has sort of reached its expiration date now, because of course we'll get into this later, but maybe Antonio Conte just wasn't given the proper tools, and Harry Kane is starting to realize that now, and is starting to come to terms with maybe just Spurs aren't the one to be able to provide the trophies, which is just a sad case of affairs, just a sad case. But let's get to the chat here, and then we'll get into the news, everybody. John Stokes, evening, Dave and Jack. Big up, everyone. Big up, Johnny. Hopefully you're okay, my man. Mick Hermelot, good evening, Jack. Good to see you, everybody. Tequila in the house. Good evening to the Flag Up and Harris Army. Sad to see Kane go, but I think a full reset is what we need. Best wishes, Kane. Tequila, you're thinking about it very ruthlessly, but also acknowledging that it just has to be done, Tequila. And we'll get into that, don't you worry. Phil P, Enoch, how big yourself up. Phil P, Craig Bowler, keep the faith, people. Paratici has brought in 14 players in his first 12 months. That's half the squad, and he isn't stopping there. Let Paratici cook. Love that, Craig. What I would say with Paratici is he's not everybody's favorite, and he hasn't actually come out recently or been in the public sphere recently. It was a little disappointing, but I would say there haven't been too many duds that he has actually brought in. Maybe Emerson is really the only one that we would sort of point to, but there aren't really any players, I would say, in this squad right now that people are completely given up on or thought are just complete, useless transfers or whatever. I think a lot of people still have faith in Big Richie. A lot of people I know really like Basuma and players like that. Of course, Kulusevski, Bentancur saved our season last season. So I'm with you, my man. Let the man cook. Let the man cook. Big up, Craig Bowler. King Hoddle Conte is underperforming due to incorrect adherence to the 3-4-3 for certain games, tactical rigidity, overplaying a poor Son, neglect of Spence, and poor use of subs. Injuries have impacted some of this. Philip, even if you are Conte's biggest fan, or even if you're somewhere in the middle, what would you say maybe Conte has maybe been getting wrong that sort of has contributed to maybe some of these poor performances?
Yeah, I think his apparent inability to change things around. He seems to be very rigid in his system, regardless of what the opposition is. Like, I think a lot of us were crying out on Sunday to match up Arsenal in midfield. He didn't, and we got swamped in the first half through midfield. So I don't know whether it's stubbornness or what. I just don't know what. I can't understand why he's not. Like, I would expect a manager of that character, of that caliber, to be able to switch things around. Pep Guardiola can do it. Klopp can do it. Most managers can do it, but he seems to be reluctant too. And then he leaves it too late to make subs a lot of the time. Yeah. And bringing Brian Hill on after 87 minutes. I mean, what do you expect the guy to do? I know injuries have impacted it. We've lost Bentancur since the World Cup. Hopefully he's back tomorrow night. And, I suppose the loss of the mystery of the season for me is Son's loss of form. He seems to have completely lost his mojo and doesn't show any signs of really getting it back. Okay, he scores a goal against Palace, and we think, here, we're going to get a Sonny back. Not happening, I'm afraid. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Tomorrow night, personally, I would leave Son on the bench and put an extra man in midfield, but we'll see what happens,
Tangent little question.
It's really hard to explain what's going on with Conte. It really is,
Just a quick follow-up. Just on Sonny, though, like, what would you, and I'm going to ask Jacob this too, because I know he really likes Sonny, but Philip, do you feel like it's, like a don't fix what ain't broke scenario with, Conte? He had it right last season with Sonny and the relationship that he had with Kane. And maybe he's tweaked it a little bit or something. Maybe he's changed something and it's all gone wrong. Could that be possible?
Something has happened. It must be something very slight that we haven't really noticed it on the pitch. He's still playing on the left, coming in, cutting in, and nothing's changed there. It just seems to be every player goes through it in his career is a loss of form at some stage, and the harder you try, the worse it looks. And I think that's where Sonny is at the minute. He's trying too hard to get back to where he was last season, and it's not happening. And he's a year and a half left in his contract. And I hate to say, but the absolutely Armageddon for Tottenham this summer could be that both Kane and Son leave.
Oh.
Rather than let him run down his contract and go for free. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but like at this stage, anything is possible at Tottenham the way things are. You just do not know which way this thing's going to go.
It's like, hearing the Kane news today was like getting the wind knocked out of you, and then having that Son, possibility as well as having just somebody then knock you over after having the wind knocked out of you.
We got so used to them, so comfortable with them, and now it may all be snatched away from us.
Yeah. Jacob, I mean, what did you make of my question there, where with the Sonny, him kind of not finding the same form as last season, did maybe Conte tweak something there? Is that maybe something he's perhaps gotten wrong? Maybe just don't fix what ain't broke, and maybe he broke Sonny. I hate to put it dramatically.
For me personally, I don't think he's broke. I don't think he's past it. Every player is going to have lulls, especially when you look at top players like even Harry Kane. He had a lull last season playing under Nuno. I mean, I get it. It's hard to find your confidence. I think what's happening with Conte's tactics is it's causing Sonny, for especially the first half, whenever I think a lot of his criticism has come, is he's tracking back a lot. I see him in our half a lot, playing defense. He's not a defender. He's not the kind of guy, in my opinion, that you bring back to help you on defense either. He's the kind of guy who stays forward for the chance for a counterattack. And when we do have the counterattack, we don't even have as much space as normal because we're playing the 3-4-3, and it's like these two diamonds that are like constantly not communicating well with each other. So it's like, yes, the system can work, but we don't have the players it makes to work. And I think if he had, the miscommunication is very clear between him and Perisic. We've seen it in every. I put out a tweet this morning saying, I'm pretty sure every game, at least once, I see Son and Kane, or excuse me, Perisic and Son not on the same page. One's thinking something else, and the other one's doing the opposite. And we saw that frustration kind of come to head between them
Yeah,
two
I saw
against
that.
Arsenal. The run, Sonny was waiting to play him into the right time. I guess Perisic didn't think it was the right time. He threw his hands up, and then Son played it into him. By that point, it was too late. Rolled out of bounds for a goal kick. So
Mm,
it's things like that when it keeps happening, everyone's going to say, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" Perisic has assists. He's leading the league in like the most successful crosses into the
sure.
box or something. So it's hard to say, okay, what Perisic is doing is wrong. I'm just saying I don't know that what Son's qualities is working in this formation, the tactics that we run in this formation, because to me, Son playing defense is not a good idea. Um,
I'm like
I,
scraping the barrel for like ideas for what's gone wrong with Sonny, and the one that sort of has maybe just come to my mind here, just because King Huddle is bringing up maybe the things that Conte has gotten wrong. Even if you love Conte, even if you think he's the one of the a world class manager like I do, I think he is. You still have to admit he's gotten some things wrong, and one of the things I would bring up King Huddle is simply perhaps maybe that Sonny kind of telepathic relationship with Harry Kane. It's just not really the same as it was last season. And maybe it's just been tweaked with or messed with a little bit and sort of accidentally. Obviously, he tweaked with it to make it better, but maybe it somehow got worse or, maybe it somehow, messed with Sonny. But of course, you can't give the guy too many excuses. You can't give the, Sonny too many excuses as well. So it's a tough one, King Huddle. Big up, my man. Phil, big up yourself. And then we also have Steve D in the house, Chris Benoit, decade-long mediocrity to come with the rebuilds. It feels like we never actually ever complete a real rebuild. We always go through one rebuild, scrap it up halfway, go to the next one, scrap it up a quarter way of the way through. We never really seem to get through any of the rebuilds. So let's see how this one goes, Chris Benoit. We got USA Spurs in the house as well. Top man, Israel Uncovered, Amir Sardar. Big up, lads. What a great panel. Pick yourself up, Amir. Good to see you in here, my friend. We got Aussie 12. Would be ironic if Kane left and then 1-0 the year he left Spurs. Then he wins a cup. I don't think it would be ironic. Every single other player seems to have done it since they've left Spurs. So
status quo
be
at this
consistent.
point.
Be consistent with the rest of them. To be fair, it actually would be ironic if he didn't do it. If Kane of all people as well. Big up Mo THFC. What does Philip think of Enoch and Levy? He was defending them prior. I'm sorry, Philip. I didn't even mean to read this out loud, but
No, I wasn't defending them, but what I was saying was I want the best ownership for the club because Enoch are going nowhere in the near future, as far as I can see. And it's up to them to get their finger out and do something to keep this team and keep this manager together. Whether they do it or not, who knows?
I think another thing too is like, will they kind of accept maybe that the times of maybe trying to punch above your weight, play within your means, those sort of kind of financial, kind of, how would you put it? Maybe more mediocrity or financial sort of kind of, hesitancy. It's just maybe kind of out of the loop these days, or it's just not.
Well, it's not working. Even
How
that
it's like
model.
monopoly money now these days, I think as well. So it's not going to work for them maybe anymore. But
But that model's not working if your scouting isn't correct. Now it's fine to say that we're doing X, Y, and Z, right? If we're getting Bales in and then we're selling Bale for top money, we're getting a Modric in and then we sell Modric for top. That's one thing. But if we're getting in Gedson Fernandez and we're selling him for peanuts and Harry Kane's on the last year of his contract and we're trying to sell him for 100 mil, no one's going to pay 100 mil for the world's best striker if he's got a year left on his contract. I'm sorry. I hope so. But Man United fans are already like, all right, then bye. We'll get someone else. And I think that's kind of been the likely option where Kane might land. But I just think even, I'm not one to say this system's better than this system. I can just say that the system we have in place currently is not working. So something has to change. I'm not the person to say it needs to be X, Y, and Z. I'm just another person saying what I'm seeing is not working from the top level down to the bottom level. It's just there has to be some kind of change. And I think it's inevitable at this point.
It's a fine balance between spending your money wisely, but also having enough money to spend. And I think also people get it wrong. Like directors football will get a transfer wrong. They will, maybe see something that wasn't there, or the player just flops. And you also have to have, I don't know how you put it in better terms, but that sort of band-aid money to be able to also kind of fix it with another sort of transfer. And Spurs, I think, would rather just kind of let that guy sit in the squad for a few years, wait till he comes good, and then deal with it later, kind of thing. And that's also maybe kind of come to hurt us, I think.
Could that hesitancy be from the deals like what we spent over 40 million on Davinson Sanchez, and maybe the board looks at it like, well, we dropped 40 mil on a defender and that didn't work, so maybe there's some kind of I try to see both sides of the table here in any argument, and it's really like I try to find what could it be, right? We dropped 80 on Ndombele, and we saw how well that's going for us. We still can't barely get him off our books, so it could be just one of those. Again, if you have shitty scouts calling the shots and saying this is who you should buy, and we actually spend that money, but on the wrong person, is just as bad as if we don't spend that money on anybody. We saw it with Potch, no money spent. We saw with Jose and with Conte, the wrong people bought. It's just at some point you got to get something right. You got to fix your scouting in order if you're going to spend the money. And I think if we're at a stage where we're going to spend the money, we're going to back a manager. Well, damn, you better do it now because Antonio's at least someone who could say, no, this player's shit or this player's good, and he can sign off. I think, there might be some hesitancy, from the board. They've spent big money on positions that we still haven't filled.
Isn't Paratici supposed to have revolutionized the scouting system since he came in? Got rid of a lot of the
how long does that, it feels like we can only wait till how long does that take effect? I can't really answer that, Philip, but
I think I think the board are probably hesitant because, a lot of those big transfers and Ndombele and Sanchez were done under the guidance of Steve Hitchen.
Right.
The late lamented Steve Hitchen is gone. And I can see why they're scared, but they should be trusting. If they trusted Paratici to get us Bentancur and Kulichevsky, they should be trusting him to get the next big signing. But will they trust him to open the checkbook big enough to make that signing? That is the question.
Yeah.
The way we're fighting with Sporting over Pedro Porro is a bit embarrassing, now, to be honest with you.
It's a real wrestle at this moment.
The fact that we keep lowballing, then we're like, you want to take one of our defenders? It's like, come on, man, we got to do this. This doesn't look good.
We'll try everything under the sun.
Taking Emerson Royale is they've actually seen him play. That's probably the problem.
Exactly right. We played against them. Exactly right. They couldn't pull a fast one on them. Sue Smith, if Harry goes, then good luck to him. Not the first player we've lost because of our owners' lack of ambition, but Sue Smith, it really is like a punch in the gut to see it, and when it does, if it does happen, when it does happen, I don't know. It's just going to be hard to take. It really will be. I must be honest. DJ Samuel, give Conte time. Love that, DJ. Keep the faith in the Antonio. Wolf Mallard, most areas in my life are pretty satisfying, but Spurs are sucking my will to live. That's good to see that you got other things holding you up at the moment, though, Wolfie. Good man. But yeah, I would say it's not even like this week. We're halfway through the week. It's Wednesday, and it feels like each passing day something worse has happened, or something, another bit of bad news has happened. And it's, you'd think the North London derby would be, bad enough, but it feels like, extra blows we've had to be dealt with. Well,
the bad news is coming through tonight as well. United are winning 1-0 at half time at Palace, so that's another 3 points ahead of us. They're going to go.
What I would say, though, completely unrelated, feels like everybody's beating Crystal Palace at this moment in time.
True.
Yeah, they're on a big losing streak. Ron Vinayak, Enoch out, leave you out, big yourself up, Ron. If I didn't say hello to you, Chris Benoit, hello to you. Craig Fenner says, big up, lads. Conte needs to play to our players' strengths, which would be the 4-3-3 to me. I agree with you, Craig. A lot of people like the 4-2-3-1 with Spurs, especially. That's sort of kind of the shape that we've always been very successful with. But I think it's always, to the integrity of the manager. Like, I think you got to let the manager be successful with the formation or the shape and the tactics that he has been successful with. Conte has been successful at the 3-4-3. He's been successful with the 3-5-2, and you have to give him the tools to let that system be successful. It always feels kind of strange to bring in a manager and then basically tell that manager to play by the tactics that sort of the fans want, or the tactics that sort of the club maybe breeds or, stands for or whatever. I just think you just have to let managers, do what they want to do. You brought them in the first place, and you brought them in to be successful. And in order to be successful, I feel like they should be allowed to do what they want to do. At the same time, is Conte sometimes a bit inflexible? Is he a bit stubborn? Yes, he is. So I will give you that, Craig. I will give you that at certain moments. Yeah.
Well, I do want to say, Craig, is just remember that we went to Conte, and when we sent the SOS, we sent the birds with the white doves and the white flag. We said, Conte, what is it that you didn't like about our offer before? Because we're going to offer it to you now because we just sacked Nuno and we need you to come in. So at the end of the day, this guy came in with the position of, you know who I am, y'all wanted me, and I think that is something that often I forget, because I'm like, I too am frustrated with the timing of some subs. Brian Steele, what is he really going to offer? Like you said, Philip, what is he going to offer in the 87th minute? Even if he is Messi or if he's another Ndombele, 3 minutes, we're not going to find either out. And especially if we've been going 70, 80 minutes and it's not working, you got to change something. I think that's why in the second half we start to see a little more success and a little more happiness, is because Son stops dropping back as much. He starts making those runs in behind. Kane starts dropping back and creating and doing that linking play that he's so good at. And I think, there's definitely truth to both sides of it. I think the fact that Conte sticking to what he knows is going to work, and then also maybe a little bit more flexibility, just in the fact of because when you show up, you're supposed to plan for who you're going against. And I think sometimes we just stick to what we are rather than who we're playing against, and then Conte contradicts himself in the pressers with it too. It's a confusing mess at this point, Craig. So that's all I was going to say.
It is a confusing mess. You're right, my man. Absolute bore. I'm just going to go quickly because we do got to get to the news here, everybody. But just want to welcome everybody in. If you're enjoying the panel, if you're enjoying the show so far, hit that like button. Steve D in here. You got Jeff Ives. Good to see you, Jeff. I think it's Mark. Good to see you, Mark, as well. Carl Simpson, you absolute legend. And also Carl with a member super chat. Let me get to it. He says, big up, gents. Let's hope we turn up for the fans. It would be very Spurs tomorrow, Philip, for us to lose in the North London derby only to beat Man City. Can you tell Carl that's what you're believing right now, or are we
did it in reverse last season. We beat Man City away and then went and lost to Burnley. So maybe we can do the reverse.
if only. But what do you say, Jacob? Can we help out Carl here? Can we say to him that that's what's going to happen? That Spurs are going to pull off the ultimate Spursy kind of a week where we lose the North London derby only to beat Man City? Or is it just going to be...
I think what helps put the nail in the Spursy coffin for me is the fact that if it would be Spursy to do exactly what you said, but then throw in the added bonus of this is just going to help Arsenal in the long run. So I would not be surprised in the slightest. We take all 6 points off City, help Arsenal completely. I mean, with Spurs, we could go out there and lose 4-0, or we could go out there and win 3-2 at the Etihad like we did last season. It was absolute limbs. I mean, I just think it's kind of a flip of the coin at this point, what kind of Spurs you're going to get and what performance. It's just, I feel like either way it goes, whether we win, lose, or draw, there's going to be major repercussions in different areas respectively for each. And I think that if we win, that'll be great, but we're helping Arsenal is one thing, and then another, you may be able to make the argument that we don't need that many reinforcements, we just be a challenger for the thing. But then on the flip coin, if we go out there and we lose to City, then it might be Conte's head, and then we're really not going to get get any players in. So it's just
can't be easy.
Yeah, it's lose for us, win for the board.
Jeez. It's good to see you're thinking 3 steps ahead. Just when you think 3 steps ahead, it turns out not to be a good ending. Paul Beatty, hey folks, good chatting with you yesterday. Jacob, Paul Osber, I believe. Looks like he was chatting with you the other day.
Big up, Paul. Yeah, big up, Paul. He joined the pop-up show I did the other night. Had a lovely chat. Big up, Paul.
Man. Good man. Spurs 89. Harry deserves better. A fresh start with the money he brings in. might be just what he needs. Get 2 class players for his 80 to 90 million. I hope we get more of that because he's so good, but I understand year left on the contract and all that. It's just not really going to happen.
Let's hope the money doesn't disappear into the ENIC balance sheet and stay there.
That would also be a crime. That would also be a crime because he's one of our own as well. So it's not like they've,
On the subject of that, I was in a Twitter space earlier where apparently some few agents are in as well. And they said in the coming weeks, he wouldn't say what. He was very, I can't think of the word right now, but he was very vague about it. And he said this, and I'm trying to quote him verbatim. He said, in the next coming weeks, if you support ENIC, there's going to be some news that comes out that it doesn't matter if you supported him or not, everyone's going to be very upset about. So apparently something in the next couple of weeks after the window closes, there's going to be some news that comes out that's going to make everyone real upset. And to me, my first thought was the financial report, like you guys were alluding to. There could be some upset people once that thing gets broken down. I don't know.
Sean's been waiting desperately. I know he has.
He's waiting since November,
like a movie
right?
release. It's like a movie release for him. He's just been waiting desperately. But let's get into the news here, everybody. Let's crack into it. If you haven't already, hit that like button. But we're going to be talking about Harry Kane, and we are going to be talking about maybe first, just start maybe to think of the possibility that maybe Spurs could be trying to tempt him back. But Paul O'Keefe, Phillips said that Tottenham won't block a third attempt for Harry Kane to leave, and that Kane is not engaging in talks right now about renewing his contract, and that Tottenham fans need to get used to the idea of no Harry Kane beyond this season. Matt Law, though, did say, though, that those around Harry Kane believe that only Champions League qualification or a trophy might tempt Kane into staying. We have 4 months, basically, Philip, I think, before probably Harry Kane might make some decision. Can we convince him in this next 4 months? Is there still time to try to get him on side to maybe help him maybe think that he can still stick with Spurs?
Well, I mean, the FA Cup would appear to be the greatest avenue to maybe at least giving us a chance of keeping him. I mean, look at the present situation. There's 9 Premiership teams gone already. There's going to be 5 lower league teams at least in the 5th round. So we can beat Preston and get a decent run. Like, it's 32 years since we won the FA Cup, a trophy that used to be ours. So it's time we got that. So if we got that this season, possibly Harry Kane might stay. Like, I know he loves the club, and he's got 2 records in his sights. He's one off Jimmy Greaves' record, which he'll beat comfortably, and I think he's 10 behind Wayne Rooney for the all-time Premiership scoring record, right? So if he is going to go, and let's face it looks like he is, I would like him to beat both those records and then move to Bayern Munich. I don't want him going to another Premiership club because you know what's going to happen there. He'll come back to us and, he'll do what he does to most other teams. I don't want to see Harry staying in England. If he goes abroad, let him go abroad. Like, there's always hope. The guy, he loves Spurs, and because it depends on how much influence his brother has on him at the moment.
That's fair.
His brother, I wouldn't class as a Spurs fan by any means, and he may have a big say. But I've been through this before. I remember when Jimmy Greaves left Spurs. Jimmy Greaves was only 29. He was the same age as Harry Kane. Now, the only difference there is we got Martin Peters in exchange for that, which is, Peters was a World Cup winner and a good goal scorer. But Jimmy Greaves leaving was a horrible. Gareth Bale leaving was another one. Luka Modric. We've had them every few years over the last decade or so, or 2 decades. So I would hate to see him go, and I hope he does stay. And as Sean says there, that is exactly what I've been thinking since the draw was made. Preston North End is now our biggest game of the season. Forget about tomorrow. It's important, but not that important. That is the game we need to win. That one there.
I was gonna say, need the big guns then against Preston. Put every man behind the ball. Ensure that we can win. That we can win. Put aside all the progressive tactics. We need to win against Preston. Do whatever it takes.
But that will be Preston's cup final because I know they lost 4-0 at home to Norwich the other day there. But they're again, look at the tough game Portsmouth gave us.
By the looks of it, it's almost our cup final. At the moment, we keep progressing through these FA Cup rounds. I think each one will be a cup final for us. And because Harry Kane, Philip, he has expressed in the past that he will stick with Spurs if he sees that they are on the way or progressing towards winning trophies and have a solid foundation for winning trophies. And also bringing in Antonio Conte was sort of a way to lure him into thinking that, bringing in these managers that want to win trophies and everything. But once Antonio Conte starts to doubt that the board and everything are really keen to win trophies, Harry Kane probably starts to think the same way, right?
Well, like, I would say Harry Kane came back from the World Cup hoping that Tottenham were going to hit the ground running in the second half of the season. We're going to get the transfers in that we needed. At the moment, if I was Harry Kane, I would be feeling a little bit disillusioned the way things are at the club. And like me, I'm hoping that he's thinking if things get better, then things may turn themselves around and we get our players in. We have a good end of the season. We get top four and maybe win a trophy. Then he's got a decision to make. Then he might stay. But if we fall away and finish 7th or 8th and get no trophy, you can't blame the guy for wanting to leave. And that, that's just the hard, honest facts of it.
Yeah. I mean, Jacob, for you, it feels like Kane's vision doesn't, really align with the club right now. He's always, tried his very best, it feels like, to stay at the club. But once he starts seeing that they're not progressing towards, challenging for major trophies, he's going to have to think about his future. Conte right now, right, is starting to come out and kind of make some words about the board and their sort of passion and drive towards really pursuing trophies. I feel like once Conte starts making remarks about their lack of will to win trophies, Harry Kane might start kind of, thinking the same thing. And maybe that's why the news have come about.
I mean, I think like Philip was saying that earlier, he did already want to leave. There was something that helped keep him stay. I think, yes, like Philip said, it could have been the Conte thing. We got a guy who's serious. It made everyone like me think we were very serious. Now, again, on the flip side of that, it's like, sorry about my son. He's getting excited about his show.
He's how I feel about Harry Kane.
He's been this upset since the North London Derby, to be honest. Can you blame the guy? I see it as he's going to break the Spurs all-time scoring record this season. It's going to happen one way or another. That's going to be a check mark. Now he's going to say, I guess I've done everything I can there. Because if we're not fighting for trophies, that's what he wants. And any social media, anything making fun of Harry Kane, it's always, what has he won? Other than, I mean, they obviously are not going to mention the multiple golden boots, the World Cup golden boot, they're not going to mention playmaker awards, not going to mention stuff like that. They're wondering, what big trophies as a team have you won with your team? And at the end of the day, Audi Cup, Walter Toll Cup, this is not the best striker in the world resume cups. So it's like, for him, I wouldn't blame him one bit if we have no direction still at, come the summer. If we have no direction, we have no hope. We're still looking kind of how we're looking right now. Whether we finish 5th, I still think even if we finish 5th or 4th, that he could still want to go. Because if you get Champions League, but you're buying not Champions League quality players, does anyone have hope on February that we're going to do anything versus Milan? No. I don't. Yeah. I don't know who realistically is going in there thinking that we could actually do something, because they've got the best left side in Europe, in my opinion, and the best two players on the left.
And Hernandez,
and they're phenomenal. They're going to tear apart our right side. I don't care if it's Doherty, if it's Emerson, Pedro Porro. I don't give a shit. They're all getting worked by this Milan side, because Milan has players, Tonali, these guys, Tomori, they're quality players. We have Kane, who's Champions League quality. Son on his day, Champions League quality. What else? Maybe Bentancur. You could argue that, maybe. But what else? And it's just, of course, Kane's going to look down that locker room and say, you're starting 19-year-old Papa Mate Sarr, Brian Keel, 20-year-old. People want him to start over my best friend, Kyungmin Daddy. So it's like, he's in a position he's in a rock and a hard place. And for him, I support him. He has a beautiful family. I want nothing but the best for the guy.
Who doesn't want
nothing?
What
I'm thinking too? We could be in a catch-22 situation if we do actually sign players in January and find then that they're cup tied in the Champions League and we can't play them. That could easily happen as well, Pedro Porro will be cup tied if we get him.
Is that really the
No,
case, though? I think
that's
maybe it
right.
gets sort of refreshed or something like that with
I
Pedro
don't know.
Porro.
It used to be the rule you couldn't play for another team in the same season, but maybe they've changed it. I don't know. But Porro played against us in the Champions League, so that's him gone.
I think we
So
are maybe able to use him. We could. I could be mistaken, though. I definitely
I
could
don't
be.
know. I don't know what the rules are now.
We brought this
I'm
up
sure somebody will
earlier.
tell us.
We brought this up earlier, Philip. You know, Kane showed that he was ready to leave Spurs when they fired Jose Mourinho and they hired Nuno. But out of
Mhm.
desperation, Spurs did hire Antonio Conte to try to convince him to stay through this last summer, and they were pretty successful with that. If
Yeah.
they sack Antonio Conte mid-season, or if they sack him in the next week or two, do you think that will sort of kind of ensure Harry Kane, kind of it will ensure his decision? Like, do you think he'll kind of just make up his mind if Antonio Conte is sacked, let's say in the next week or two?
Yeah, I think that'll happen because I think Kane, is a fan of Conte's, and I think he likes what he's trying to do. And yeah, I think that will be if we lose Conte, we lose Kane. The two go together, I think.
Could you imagine if Conte did use Son and Kane like he used Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez? If he did that on a 3-5-2, we might be looking at something different. People could change their mind on Son.
Yeah,
That's just something I was thinking about while you were talking about. Because Kane does like a manager who takes into account the fact that he's the world's best striker, and that's how you game plan. Is around your best players, in my opinion, and Kane's one of them.
Yeah, I think Kane. I wish we could center everything around him, but we just haven't really give
yeah,
him the proper. It feels like it's kind of you back the manager, but you're also kind of simultaneously trying to back Kane too, Philip. Like you're by backing
yeah,
Conte,
yeah,
you're also
yeah.
backing Kane.
The
Yeah,
two peas in a pod, really. They go together.
yeah.
And it's worrying, really. I mean, this
Because who
summer,
comes in that keeps Kane's confidence in the club? What manager do we realistically get that Kane says,
certainly not,
"Yeah, I'll stick with that"?
That's what I'm
certainly
curious
not
though,
Ryan
lads.
Mason, anyway.
If
Ryan
they
Mason will probably be made deputy manager or assistant manager, whatever you want to call it. So no, I mean Thomas Tuchel is supposed to be putting his nose up looking for the job. But do we want another Chelsea manager? We seem to make a habit of hiring ex-Chelsea managers. Although
Would
I think
someone
Tuchel
like
is a good
Tuchel
guy.
convince him to stay? Because we brought this up, right? Where Jose Mourinho convinced him to stick around, Conte convinced him to stick around. Would someone like Tuchel convince him to stick around, or is that like
Maybe he would.
fool me
He
once, fool
might.
me twice?
He might but let's face it. If we sack Conte or let Conte go, right? And there's a grapevine in the football world. Every manager worth his salt knows the difficulties of working with Daniel Levy and the problems at Tottenham when it comes to managerial changeovers. So we're going to find it very difficult to find a manager. We're going to get a manager that's out of work. That's for a start. Because I can't see a manager of a club still in the job leaving to come to us, given the history. So Tuchel might be an option. Other than that, I'd say we've got the likes of Sam Allardyce, Neil Warnock, and Alan Pardew on speed dial because that's about the level we're going to be at.
I think he's got Pochettino on speed dial, but I think we'll get
Yeah,
into it
not yet,
later. Who's
not yet.
your choice between Tuchel and Pochettino? We'll get into that later. Don't you worry. I do have another question though here, or actually, Jacob, I did kind of want your thoughts on the fact that it feels like maybe they tried to convince Kane before by bringing in world-class managers that sort of had that winner's mentality, that alpha male mentality, if you will. I don't like using that phrase, but I think Jose is kind of one of them, and I think Antonio Conte is kind of one of them. They kind of convinced Kane that by bringing in these big dog managers, they're sort of on the track to trying to win things, on the track to trying to win him those trophies, but they didn't really properly back Jose. They haven't really shown any sort of sign to maybe be fully behind Conte, especially right now. It doesn't look like they're fully behind Conte. I mean, it feels like once Conte goes, it'd be hard for them to try to convince him with another great manager that, hey, like, we're going to pull this together. Like, it feels like once Conte goes, he's going to be like, his mind's made up sort of thing. What do you make?
I agree with you there because, but not only I would add, Levy did that to not only convince Kane, but to convince the fans as well. Because think about how many fans were screaming his name, Levy out, Levy out. He made the switch real quick when you put him on the hot seat. I don't. That's kind of the thing is I don't think there is another manager you bring in that can convince Kane. It's almost like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on
Exactly.
me. And now I'm going to do something about it. Um, it is unfortunate because, like myself and many other fans, we all felt, okay, we're getting Conte. We're serious about this now. We're going to go out there and we're going to get some actual center backs. We're going to go out there and get top wing backs. Antonio Conte's system's not working at Tottenham because we don't have Hakimi. We don't have a Brozovic. We don't. These are names of players that like run the system. Bastoni, Skriniar, De Vrij when he was there is. I mean, the list can go on and on. And if we're not matching, that's the part for me is Kane has to be looking at this and saying, okay, you went and got this world class manager, this guy who can do wonderful things, but he does need wonderful players. Like any manager in this day and age, if you're going to accomplish anything, maybe outside the FA Cup, but if you're going to accomplish anything, like you're going to need some special talent. And
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, Perisic on a free, that shows a bargain buy. Um, Bastuma, I was one very excited about. But is that a player that's working in this system, in Conte's system? Not in the 4-3 the 3-4-3, excuse me. It's not working. So it's like and then we signed Spence and we signed Forrester and we signed all these players and some people would say, "Oh, well Conte was back." But it's like I mean, yeah, like you could say if he fell, he may have fell onto a blanket that's on the floor, but he's not falling into a security of like a safe space to land. So it's
Mm.
like, I mean, yeah, you back him to a degree, but it's like it's not really gonna save the fall when you look at your Man Cities now, United, Arsenal. I'm gonna take them out of that. I'm gonna say Man City, United, Newcastle. They've got some depth. Newcastle, one of my favorite players for that team. They're doing all this great success, and he's barely coming off the bench. So it's
Yeah.
just who have they brought in since the takeover? Sven Botman, Trippier, Guimaraes. These are all players that immediately walk into our 11, and it's like we can't keep making signings for any manager, Conte, Nuno, Jose. We can't keep. I mean, Jose's a perfect example. Roden over Skriniar, Getson Fernandez over Bruno Fernandez. It's like somewhere you're gonna have to spend money on quality product. I love shopping on Amazon because it's cheap as hell. You can find some maker that sells something that's normally $80. You can find it for $19.99. But guess what? It's gonna last you half about the time because it's cheap,
Mm.
cheap
Yeah, those
quality,
Amazon
cheap.
batteries.
They suck. I hate Amazon batteries. Never buy Amazon batteries. Worst batteries. But that's kind of my point. Some things in the house you can say, yeah, I'll go. I'll cheap. I'll be cheap on that, right? I'll save my money on this and that. But there's some things like car tires. You don't want to skimp on your car tires. You don't want to skimp on the gasoline if your car needs premium gasoline and you get the cheap stuff. Your car's not going to run right. It's the same thing with a football club. You buy a Roden over a Skriniar, he barely even sees the field because he's not good enough. No
Mm.
one's gonna. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jake.
And you have to end up throwing away your Joe Rodon later down the road instead of keeping your Skriniar, for a long time. That's what sometimes you have to do. You buy sometimes the more expensive because it lasts longer, and you don't have to worry about it later down the road. You don't have to worry about throwing it out, and that's what we
Exactly.
kind of have the
But,
problem with is that we have
but
so
see,
many
that's the
things that we got
problem.
to
Is
throw out.
our owners are treating this like it's a rental property and not like a property they own, and they're trying to like beef up for market value. They're they're cutting corners and building this thing. You cut corners when you rebuild a house, you're gonna have leaks everywhere. You cut corners in any business form, like there's gonna be consequences to that. And we're seeing 22 years of consequences up to this point of us patchwork. Jose Mourinho, serial winner, gets us to a cup 5 days before the final sacking. Ryan Mason will do it. What is that?
Mm.
What I mean, that just shows that we're not thinking about the football pitch success. We're thinking about commercial success. We're thinking about business success. And like you said, the business model used to be we buy these players low and then we sell them high. But when's the last time that's worked for us?
Yeah, I don't think it ever will, but we're gonna. When will they learn to? That's the question. Jerome here with the super chat. Look, it is time to let Harry go and let him find success in another club. That will not keep letting him down constantly. it's just something that I'm going to have to come to terms with, though, Jerome, because I just want to still make it work. Like, this is why kind of in the beginning here, I've been asking, the panel, like, is there maybe something we can do to still convince them? We have 4 months left here. Like, what is there still left to do to try to convince Harry one last time? Can we still play the same trick on him by getting in a new manager? Maybe that might sort of convince him to stay. I'll try any trick in the book to keep him around. And maybe that's just unfair to him, Jerome. We've been completely unfair to him with the lack of trophies and with the lack of opportunities for him to be able to really feel like he had a team around him to push for them. But I think
it's not Spurs' responsibility, though, to cater to. I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say that I don't know that, like, I do, from my perspective, say, oh, we let him down for sure, 1,000%. But if I'm on the board and I'm Tottenham Hotspur, how have I let you down? When have I not paid you? That's my question.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, yeah, in your workplace, you want your workplace to be non-toxic. You want good people to help make you productive as well. And I think to a degree there is some of that. But yeah, it's like I see it from I try, like I said, I try to look at both sides. And if I'm Levy, if I'm the board, I'm saying, how have I necessarily done you wrong? I've given you all the money you asked for. I raised you when you need a raise. How have I done you wrong?
What would you make of that, Philip? Would you say anybody in the board, if they had to sell Harry Kane, would they kind of look at that and just see like, wow, would they be a bit red-faced and kind of look at that as a big mistake? Would they be embarrassed? Would they be ashamed?
I get the feeling half the board didn't even know Harry Kane plays for Spurs. I think that. So, to be honest with you, yeah, I mean, the board, to me, they're either ENIC nominees. I doubt there's a real Spurs fan on that board, because members of boards, especially public limited companies, I don't suppose on PLC anymore, but they tend to be appointed and they tend to have a vested interest in money. Basically, that's what they're interested in. And I always think of the word ENIC. The third word in the acronym ENIC is investment, right? But it's not investment in the Spurs team. It's investment to make profits for the shareholders. And that, I mean, we'll see when the accounts come out. There's rumors of a profit of 175 million. Rumors of that's the profit for ENIC. Why isn't that being reinvested in the club? Why isn't the board members hammering on Daniel Levy's door saying we've got to put more money into the club? We've got a stadium. We haven't got a team to match the stadium, and it's an absolute embarrassment that they're not investing in the team like they should do. And it also makes us look so stupid in the eyes of other football. Like, we are a bit of a joke. I mean, Sky Sports, my old bug-based Sky Sports, will be jumping all over this if anything happens to Conte. They've already ridiculed us on Sunday before, during, and after the Arsenal game. Because they can see that this club has not been managed, or not been the football side of it's not been managed. The ENIC is very successful, but why aren't they putting more money into the club? This is the question we're all asking this now at the moment, and what's the answer?
Yeah, and it just feels like with for Kane, I don't know. It's so hard for me to still even accept that. Like, I know Paul O'Keefe told us today that we're Spurs fans are going to have to get used to life without Harry Kane, but it just sort of feels like maybe all of a sudden, like maybe we procrastinated it, if anything, Philip. Like, we kind of sort of thought like, oh, Harry Kane, he'll eventually win one. He'll eventually be able to have a trophy to his name and he'll have success, and it all kind of will just naturally come together here, but just simply hasn't. And I don't know, it just feels like maybe a procrastinated sort of thing by them. And also we know that they haven't actually fully really put their heart into it when it comes to, or put their money where their mouth is when it comes to helping support Kane. But I don't know. I think it's just disappointing to have to be in this situation, Jerome, where you do probably have to think what's best for the club, and what might be best for the club is to somehow finance a rebuild. But what's also silly is, it feels silly to use Kane to finance a rebuild. Like, it's almost unfair. It just shouldn't be his legacy to help, finance a rebuild for us. And what it should be is he ends up, maybe leaving on a free at 35 years old to Sampdoria or something like that. That's what it is. That's what his career should be. And it shouldn't have to end this way, where we're using him to try to save ourselves and try to stay competitive. It's a sad case, Jerome, for me. Do
you think anybody is there any truth in that reported talks between the Qatari investment crowd and Levy to take a 20% stake in the club for 1 billion. You know, I've heard since that the Qatari have moved on somewhere else now. They're not interested. Have they talked to Levy and he told them no dice, no game? You know,
I think what might have been the case, Philip, was, I mean, we heard a story that they were looking at a minority stake investment. I think that was true. But then Joe Louis is actually more keen on selling the club outright or selling all of his shares outright in the club. And the PSG just can't do that because or Qatar can't do that because they already own PSG. So it's just sort of simple that they wanted to have that minority stake investment in a club that was, you know, allowed under the guidance or under the rules, but they weren't allowed to just take over another club. And I think it seems like ENIC is more keen on selling, you know, full outright instead of taking a bit of money in, which is even more frustrating, to be honest. At this moment in time.
Ratcliffe, the richest man in Britain, is now supposed to be in talks to buy Manchester United. Didn't we do a sponsorship deal with him for some of his vehicles there recently? His 4x4s. I think he owns a company that we did the side sponsorship deal. And when that came through, I began to think, hang on a bit, there may be something in this. Maybe this is a precursor to Ratcliffe coming in and trying to buy Spurs. Now he's talking to buy Manchester United. So could be another one that Levy is rebuffed. Who knows?
Maybe, what is it, the soap company that sponsored us? Maybe, who knows? They're looking.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I think we've gone all green with some of our sponsorship, and then suddenly we sponsor a car, a diesel run 4x4, which is manufactured by a company owned by Jim Ratcliffe. So that was the tie-in. So it looks like nothing's come of it now, you know. I
see. Jerome here following up saying, look at Berbatov, Sheringham. I think what is it? Sol Campbell, Modric, and Bale. They found trophies and glory after they left us. Why let Harry's legacy die with ENIC? Do you kind of feel this way, Philip, where that's also what probably Harry is thinking too, is that he will do whatever it takes to try to win a club at Spurs, but if he thinks it's impossible, he kind of has to save himself, sort of scenario. Like he has to grab his own life vest and sort of, you know, make sure that he goes to a club that will get him those trophies so that he can be the player in the history books that he deserves to be. And I don't know, do you feel like he has to follow in their footsteps?
Modric and Bale must have maybe 8 Champions League medals between them and numerous Spanish championships. Sol Campbell, well, we'll not mention him anyway. Teddy Sheringham was a bit of a boomerang. He left and then he came back. Berbatov went and talked to Manchester United without the permission of the club, so he was a bit of a bad boy when it came to that one, you know. So, but the point is right, Jerome. They all won medals, they all won trophies and titles when they left Spurs. So, you know, it's a good point that. I mean, we'd all love to see Harry Kane win trophies, and hopefully they're in a Tottenham shirt.
Yeah,
but we wait to see if that happens or not.
Yeah. Big up, Jerome, my man, and really do appreciate the support. And I actually have a good question here for you, Jerome, and I have a good question for the whole chat here, everybody. And I'd be curious to see what you guys have to think about it, because it is kind of an interesting one. Where if if Antonio Conte is sacked mid-season, can they convince Harry Kane to stay with another manager, or will his mind be made up that he's leaving? And we can answer this sort of quickly, but would maybe Thomas Tuchel be the one to convince Harry Kane to stick around, or would Pochettino, or is it just, you know, dead and over? I think we just need a confirmed answer here from the panel. Bring you back in, Jacob. What would you say? Tuchel? I mean, or Pochettino, if one of them was brought in, like, would that convince Harry, or is it just dead and gone if Conte is gone?
I think Pochettino seals the deal. Harry's gone. If we get Potch back, we sack Conte mid-season. I'm gonna say that Kane will. That's it. Don't matter who you bring in. Tuchel could be Jesus. It's not gonna keep Kane here. That's it.
No. What if Steve D saying I'm tapping out if we get Tuchel? Philip, would Tuchel be able to convince him, or Pochettino be able to convince him?
He'd be the third or fourth ex-Chelsea manager we brought in. AVB and Conte, and now this. I don't know, but I certainly know Pochettino won't be the answer, because let's face it, 5 or 6 of the players that got rid of Pochettino the first time around are still at the club. Now, I would love to see Pochettino come back, but not until all those guys have gone elsewhere. and give him a chance to work with players that haven't got a grudge against him, or there's going to be bad blood between them because of what happened before. But as for Tuchel, I mean, Peter makes a good point there. Tuchel will soon fall out with Levy. I mean, he fell out with the Chelsea hierarchy, so he seems to be a man that knows his own mind. Good manager, but I just don't know whether it's the answer. And I really don't. And to be honest with you, I think if Conte goes, I think that seals the deal with Harry Kane.
We're going to have to make the difficult decision here, guys. If you're the board, you're in the boardroom right now, you get to make the decision. What would you do with Kane? Sell him for a rebuild or keep him until he leaves basically for a free? Do you keep him prisoner until he leaves on that free contract? See if he maybe does win a trophy in that time being. You kind of have a bit of a ticking, clock there to see if he can win a trophy in that scenario. Or do you kind of use him for the rebuild? It's tough decisions, and that's a decision that we wish we didn't have to come to. I'll start with you, Philip, and then go to Jacob. Philip, what's the decision here? And you're going to use your wisdom.
Well, I'm assuming that the board are more interested in the pounds, shillings, and pence aspect than the fans' reaction to Kane going. So I would say they would probably vote to get 80 or 90 million for him, rather than waiting a couple of years and getting zip, because that's the way they seem to be operating. It's money. It's the money end of it is more important than the antics on the pitch or who we can sign. So I would say they will probably sell him. I hope I'm wrong, but I think I'm not.
It's a tough decision that they're going to have to come to, but I just feel like I'd rather just keep Harry Kane for me, Jacob, because I just don't really want them to use Harry, our precious big H, as a scapegoat or as a way to fix kind of their problems, right? As a way to do their rebuild. I feel like they should dip into their own pockets. They shouldn't have to use Harry Kane to do it, if you get what I'm trying to say, Jacob. Like, it just feels wrong to use big H for that. Maybe use your own pockets, use your own money to do so, and let Harry Kane go on a free maybe, and see if he can win a trophy or two or something, or probably only one. There's only one chance of us, getting a trophy in the time being, but let's see if he can get one, for his final year and a half, basically. I don't know. What would you do?
Yeah. Well, see, so there's two ways to look at it. And I think the latter that you just said, as a fan, I agree with. I don't want to see Kane leave until he absolutely has to. But the question is, if I'm the board, I tell them, hey, look, we'll sell you as soon as we get a formidable offer, and that's not a gentleman's agreement. Put it in a contract. Get him to sign a new contract, just a year extension or something, because then you can sell him for at least 100. I don't even think 100 is a disgrace, because honestly, you get Nunes for around that. We saw now a guy from the Ukrainian league. No offense, but
Grealish, Mudryk, Nunez.
Yeah, he's coming from the damn Ukrainian league. Be interesting to see how that plays out. Hopefully I'm right, but I just think that if I'm the board, I'm getting him to re-sign a contract so I can sell him for the value I think that's at least close to what he's worth. Because right now, no one's going to pay 100 mil for a guy who has 12 months on his contract. That's just not going to happen. I mean, he's worth 150 easy. I would say 200 if you look at the likes of Jack Grealish, you look at the likes of some of these other players that are going for big money. I mean, I would sell him for 170 minimum. That'd be as low as I go. But that's if he has a solid contract that a team is comfortable picking up. Because, again, 12 months is just everyone's going to run away from that.
Yeah. The petty person in me, kind of guys, wants to sort of I don't know, just the petty person just wants to make Enoch and Levy just sort of pay the price, not be able to sell Harry, sort of have to face the facts and deal with it. But this is kind of the question here, though. Like, if they do maybe make the decision to use Harry Kane as that extra bit of spending power, that extra bit of spending money on a rebuild, do you actually trust them to spend it, Philip? Because we've had this in the past with Gareth Bale.
That's the thing. You don't really, and no player can have that in his contract, that the money you get from me is going to be reinvested into the team. That just doesn't happen. So we're at the mercy of the money men again. If we get 70, 80 million, 90 million for Harry Kane, Are they going to hang on to 50 million and give give the manager 30 million to buy a new player with? We don't know. It's all up in the air. And it's my history would tell us that we're not going to get the full value of the transfer fee to spend on new players.
Yeah, and maybe with Paratici, we might spend it a little bit better, but how much money is it
Maybe.
really, and how much money can we actually get out of it to really rebuild the
It's
squad?
how much is released to the director of football or the manager to spend. That's the crux of it all.
Yeah, and you even said, well, how much of it will they line their own pockets with it, or put elsewhere, or towards something else that isn't actually invested back into the squad. Those sort of things
New
are
borrowing,
further
director's
questions.
loans.
Exactly. Last question on Kane here, lads. Do you blame Harry for wanting to leave? Is it Harry's fault? Jacob, do you blame
Not
Harry?
at all. I don't blame Harry, not in the slightest. He, like I said, he's got it all. He's got a beautiful family. He's had a great career. He's going to break the record for Tottenham goal scorers. Hopefully, he can break the Premier League record with us. But I think it's, man, he's a grown man. Let the man do what he wants to do. And if he wants to go win trophies with a club that has ambition and direction, I'm not going to blame the guy.
Yeah, I'm same here. But Philip,
I'll second that as well. I'll second exactly what Jacob said there. Yeah, absolutely.
is it Sol Campbell, though, the Judas himself, left for similar reasons to get trophies? Is it different because he stuck with us for this long and he stuck with it until basically the end, until it was too late? Would you say, Philip? He stuck with it as long as he could. Is that the difference with Harry Kane here?
Yeah, Campbell is kind of a different case in points. I think Sol Campbell might have got away with it if he signed for anybody else but Arsenal. I think that was a kick in the teeth that he went to Arsenal.
Interesting.
But didn't he agree with Spurs and then burn us for Arsenal?
Yeah,
didn't he already agree? It was already signed, and
he reneged. He reneged on his contract. Really, well, I don't know whether it was signed or not, but he reneged on our handshake. And going to Arsenal was just. I mean, I've never seen such. There's still massive hatred of Sol Campbell 20 years after it happened. So it just shows you how raw it was at the time. It really was. It was a Jew, and the word Judas was amply named for him. It was a terrible thing to happen.
Harry Kane, if he went to like a Chelsea or something, is that, I don't know, would that be seen as?
He has to go abroad for me. Yeah. I'd be very unhappy if he stayed in the Premiership.
Yeah,
I could see him going to United,
at a London club, if you ask me.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't be mad if he. Sorry, Phil. Go ahead.
They've signed Weghorst for 6 months contract, so it would lead me to believe they've signed a stopgap. So they are going to go for a forward in the summer. So you could be right.
A man who possesses a lot of the similar characteristics of Kane, maybe just a little bit taller. But that's why I think United's here, because also that way he could still break the Premier League record, and that's why I could see him staying in the Premiership just because he wants that. I think he wants to beat Rooney.
But then again, if he's to beat Wayne Rooney this season, he's going to be up at least at 27 goals. I think he's 17 at the moment, hasn't he? Maybe it's
15. Is he at 15?
He's got to score a good few more this season. The chances are he'll beat Jimmy Greaves' record, but not the other one. So I take your point. If he wants both records, he may want to stay.
Maybe that'd be perfect for him too, with that 12-month contract. Go to United for a year, break Wayne Rooney's record at Rooney's club, and then maybe go to Bayern Munich and just sit there and win everything, because that's what they do over there in the Bundesliga.
That's true.
Enjoy Oktoberfest with a few trophies. Why not? It feels like Kane, I don't know, like if he went to a Chelsea, I wouldn't say it's a Judas type move, but you'd be having some words for Harry. You would definitely be looking at him a little funny for that if he went to like a Chelsea. If he goes to a Man United, something like that, like I'd be upset like Philip is for it, but I don't know like how much I'd really, you just want him to win trophies. Like I think that's how you see. You kind of do just want him to win trophies. I'd be really upset to see him win it for another Premier League team. So I think that's where it is really sickening that he would have to do it with another Premier League team or something like that. But you do just want to see Harry win trophies no matter what. So it's almost like a conflicting thing. Like you kind of want to send him to the right place so that he gets what he wants and everybody's happy at the end of the day. So you feel bad about it because he's not getting the trophies with you, but you also want to send him to the right place that's not too morally conflicting for us, for him to be able to win trophies elsewhere.
That's true.
No. But I don't know. I don't think anybody seems to blame Harry. That's what I'm looking at. Doesn't seem like anybody wants to blame Harry, and I think that's the right effort. I think that's the
He's been a
right attitude.
he's been a servant of the club. I mean, I was upset with him with the whole City move because I was like, we have no manager, we have no hope, we have nothing, and he's going to leave us high and dry while we have nothing. I mean, if he leaves in the summer at this point, I just feel like it's gotten to a point where, you know, it's hard to hate on a man who's given you the kind of service he's given us. And at this point, we're not matching it. And he's always said, at the point in which the club's not matching my ambition, then I got to go.
Yeah. Steve D here is bringing up an interesting scenario. Thank you, Steve D. He says, or sorry, not Steve D. I read Dylan Tura. Sorry, similar profile pic. Big up, Dylan. I was doing the working out. I was working it out and selling about 6 of our players, including Son, 70 million, and Kane, 85 million, and we have about 290 million, including our transfer budget. It could be the best option if Conte and Kane were to go. When you're talking about 300 million now to spend, that can be a lot to rebuild with. That can be a lot to shake things up with and maybe start fresh. It goes again though to the question: do they spend it correctly? Do they spend it well? Paratici is somebody I think you would trust to spend a decent amount of it well, but you could like anticipate some maybe transfers not going so well, or maybe also them not using all of that money there. Like you said, like, will they really truly use all of the money from the player sales? Likely not. It could be probably a bit less than that, Dylan. So I don't know, lads. Like in this scenario, as much as it's painful, would you actually sell Sonny too, basically, at the same time? Jacob, it's a question I'm going to make you ask. And I know it's like I said, it's like the first question is Kane being sold. That's like a punch in the gut. The next one is like a punch in the face with Sonny. So how do you take it? Would you sell Sonny too if you had to sell Kane?
I mean, what's going to keep Son here? Why would Son want to stay? I think if he wants to go after seeing his best friend go, seeing the manager go, it makes sense.
Yeah. I think the problem with Son is there's only 18 months left in his contract. So the next summer is crucial. Do we sell him or wait until he runs it down? And that, what the answer to that could be. If Harry goes, I think Son will want to go as well, But one thing about this 290
but 70 mil, I'm sorry. Maybe I value players too high, but I look at the market and I look at the quality of some of these players that are going and getting shipped around. And 70 mil, you're telling me a dude from the Ukrainian league is worth more than a guy who won Golden Boot last season? 70 mil?
That's Chelsea overvaluing players. I mean, that guy scored 9 goals and 40. He's only played 35 times senior games, and he's worth 100 million. That's an absolute joke. But okay, just taking those figures are right. Okay, even though they're understated, I caution and tell people to look back at the time we sold Gareth Bale, right? And we got a shed load of money at the time for Bale. Look what we bought. They didn't work out too. We bought 7 players, as far as I remember. And maybe only 1 or 2 of them were actually any way you could call a success. But then again, we didn't have Paratici in charge at the time. So it's just a case of if we do sell the players, we want to get cool heads in there deciding who we want to bring in to replace them. Because there's no point in just buying for the sake of buying, like happened in the Bale situation when he left. I mean, I saw a picture of those guys later today, and I couldn't remember who half of them were. I think one of them was a Romanian centre-back, Churches.
Churches. Churches.
Well, that arrests my case. So that's what we have to be careful for. But I take your point, Jacob. The 70 million for Son compared to what Mudryk has gone by, Mudryk is a joke. I mean,
if that's what we're rating left wingers,
I mean, the guy is totally unproven, absolutely totally unproven, and that's why this new Chelsea owner is totally ruining the pitch for the rest of us by going in and offering crazy money. Like I even heard there was some player he wanted to offer. The release clause is 120 million. He wanted to offer 130 million. I mean, that's like going into a cafe and getting your lunch and offering to pay twice the price of it. It's madness. And I cannot sustain it. Chelsea are going to be, I don't know, build a new dressing room for all these players they've got. They're never going to play for them because they've got too many players on the books.
It feels like Chelsea are doing the Nottingham Forest just with bigger budget. Like they're just bringing in players nonsensically and just bringing in a lot of them. And when you have 300 million, like you do run the risk of, being a bit like a Forest or being a bit like a Chelsea and maybe spending it a bit nonsensically and bringing in maybe too many players at once, or maybe just some players that just won't really gel or won't really fit right in the system. You're kind of just bringing in players for players' sake. You run that sort of risk too. So Dylan, while I maybe brought up a bunch of caveats, I don't know, lads. I'm going to say yes. I think you sell them both at the same time. As much as if the business person of me, if I were in Paratici's office, working away for the Don in the office, I would probably sell both of them to make some more money, to make some more cash available to try to rebuild the squad. It's a terrible situation to be in. It shouldn't have to be that way because of the ownership. It's just if you're in that sort of pinch, that's probably what I would do. To there, Dylan. That's probably what I would do. I might sell them both. It sucks to do it, but I would do it if I were in the Paratici's office. The fan in me doesn't want that to happen. The fan in me doesn't really want them to be able to use Sonny and Kane as rebuild sort of pawns or something like that. Just seems kind of unfair for the service that they've done for us. And they've never been backed. They've never been properly supported, Kane and Son, with a proper squad. So it seems kind of unfair then to use them as sort of tools to then rebuild the squad. I don't know. It just seems disingenuous to them, or, at least to me, kind of.
Palace equalised against United as well. So Arsenal be smiling. Yeah.
I guess Vieira must have heard me when I said that they keep losing games. Maybe he heard me.
Apparently, some hell of a goal. Apparently,
but big up, Dylan, my man. It's a
it sounds
question.
Like goal of the season
based on the
chat stands. Olise, Michael Olise.
You would think it'd be Jordan Ayew. Usually he's that kind of guy to score some random worldie in a season. But Elise is a good player, probably a good Kulusevski alternative.
I rate Olise pretty high, but when we played him, he was shockingly awful.
Yeah, they were missing.
But I mean, he's still young. He's still like 20-some, so he can still come good. I think he's got some talent in that left foot of his.
Maybe he's taking it easy on us. Maybe he likes us. What would you say, Jacob? If you had to do it, would you do it? Sell them both? If you're in Paratici's office?
if Conte's about the FA, get on out of here, and Kane wants out, why not? But then again, now you're looking at, okay, Romero might be the only class player we have left, because I don't see Kulu wanting to stay. I don't see maybe Bentancur because we took him in when no one wanted him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can't be happy about selling them. That's just, I can't.
Philip, do you sell them both if you're in Paratici's office working away with him?
Reluctantly, probably yes. I'm pure. If Son had another year left in his contract, I'd be saying no, keep him. But I think the fact is that they'd rather make money on him than let him go for free. So I reluctantly say yes to him.
Yeah. Dylan says, as a follow-up, big up, Dylan. Appreciate it, my man. And he says, I do believe, though, they wouldn't use the money, to be honest, but it's a realistic figure, including sales for Dyer. Would love to sell Dyer for any price. 50 million, threw Potch under the bus. I mean, you're a man after my own heart, Dylan. I think you're a man after David's heart here. Absolutely Moonhead threw Pochettino under the bus. To get 15 million for him, I'm not sure on that. I really doubt it. I think you would get more like 10 or something like that. I think he's already kind of he's kind of approaching 30. He's not really ever convinced fully under any sort of manager, except for maybe certain times under Potch. And then maybe Conte was probably his best sort of tenure in a Spurs shirt, but he's never really fully convinced. So I would think maybe a Fulham or actually, Fulham are challenging for Europe, so maybe not that, but a team down towards the bottom of the table would maybe go after an Eric Dyer. But I see what you mean, Dylan. And yeah, I don't think they would use all the money, but that's kind of the case, is that if they don't really have a lot of money to work with and you're not given a very big transfer budget, you already have Conte going, like Jacob brought up, maybe you just sort of kind of rip up the whole thing. And Sean called it a factory restart. You just give it a big factory restart, Dylan. Just sell everything, rip up the whole house. And you shouldn't have to do it, but I guess that's what the ownership is pushing us to do, is to have to make these sort of kind of calls. And if you were in Paratici's office, like Philip said, you'd be very reluctant to do it, but you probably would have to do it. That's what I would say, Dylan.
There's a very interesting thing come out in the Evening Standard tonight, which just flies in the face of a lot of what's been said already. And again, it could be a slow news day, and some guys made this up for the laugh. but it's saying that Conte will only sign a new contract at Spurs if he gets a big pay rise.
I did see that news about that, and I don't know. I didn't know what to make of that, Philip, because for me, it sort of felt like I don't know, like not invented story, but like not the whole story, if you get what I'm saying. Like it feels like kind of convenient for that to be the case, because is he really just wanting more money to tolerate Spurs? Because that's what it comes off to me as.
Well,
Is
when
like
you're earning
he wants
15
more
million a
money to
year,
deal with Spurs. Yeah.
when you're earning 15 million a year, it shouldn't really matter if you get an extra 2 million. You're not going to spend it anyway, unless you're a real spendthrift, you know?
Maybe so. Maybe so. Sebas Wolf as well says, as much as it's going to hurt, it's fair for Harry to move on and win trophies. He deserves it. Yeah, I think he deserves the best, Sebas. I think you're absolutely right. And you sort of feel like maybe as Harry's caretaker, you want to pick the right destination for him. So, Sebas, let me know, my man. Text me it, via Instagram or whatever, my man. Is it Bayern Munich that will send him off to? Is it maybe a Real Madrid or something like that will send him off to? Because Philip wants to send him away from the Premier League. I think ideally that would be the case. But if you had to send him to another Premier League club, let me know, Sebas. Let me know. But it's going to hurt and it's going to suck. But maybe it's only fair for Harry, and it's probably the best way to treat him at the end of the day, because he does deserve trophies, because we weren't ever good enough or ever responsible enough or motivated enough, it seemed like, to try to deliver them for him. So he deserves them. He deserves them wherever he gets them, Sebas. Absolutely right. Appreciate the support, my man. Lads, I think we were going to get into, actually, Philip, you were talking about that story though. What did you make of my comment? The fact that I kind of said, like, maybe that's not the whole story, right? When it comes to Conte wanting the pay rise.
There's so much stuff going around about Spurs, and like even today, I was reading the comment about Harry Kane must leave, and the very next post on Twitter, Harry Kane in talks with a new contract. There's stuff out there that like I believe something when we're signing a player, I believe it when I see him kissing the badge at Hotspur away. Up to that, I will not believe it. A bit like a doubting Thomas here. There's so much stuff going on. The in the knows basically don't seem to know a huge amount. There's only a couple of them I would trust. And that story about looking for extra money, no, I think that's just a smoke screen for something else.
Yeah, likely so. Likely so. Speaking of smoke screens, Pedro Porro, who's been labeled a smoke screen. Pedro Porro deal was rejected, everybody. And according to Fabrizio Romano, here's the quote here. Let me just scroll down a second. He said, Tottenham have made an opening bid for Pedro Porro, including one player plus guaranteed money. Sporting have rejected this formula. Negotiations will continue as Sporting keep asking for 45 million euro clause. But Spurs are insisting with the player. Keen on the move. So what's actually nice is Pedro Porro's eager and happy to make his move to Spurs. It's just that we're just dilly-dallying around the price, and we will never, ever make it easy. It's quite obvious that there's one way to get it done. It seems like Sporting Philip are making it quite clear that there's only one way to get it done on this deal, and yet we're still trying 1,000 different ways. And my theory is maybe we threw in Emerson Royale in this one.
Yeah, and then they've obviously seen him play, so they rejected it. But I think that the last offer Spurs are supposed to have made was they'll meet the asking price, but they want to pay it in installments. But Sporting seems to be split down the middle on that, whether to accept it or not. Because let's face it, big deals like that are nearly always done in installments. They're always done that way. So Sporting are probably bucking the trend there by refusing this, to accept that at the moment. They may well still accept it. And I think it'll come down to the wire. They've got a player that wants to leave. And this could run to about maybe the 29th or 30th of January before it's settled. But I think in the end, we probably will get our man, and there'll be a compromise on both sides, as there usually is.
Yeah. What do you think, though, Jacob? Like, with Pedro Porro, maybe the reason we're also pulling our heels so much or dragging our heels so much, and I know it's has to do with also the fact that we're very, we just always operate this way. It's kind of our MO to kind of make it difficult, but maybe there's a reason we're kind of dragging our heels. Perhaps Conte's future kind of comes into it, but they might not want to buy him because they might be sacking Conte. What do you make of that?
Regardless, your manager, you got to replace your right back. Who we've got now, it's not working. It's not worked ever. So you got to change that. Now, Pedro Porro not necessarily even a Conte type wingback. You look at a prototype of a Conte wingback. They're tall, they're strong, they're fast. and they're good offensively, crosses in the box, that kind of thing. This guy's not very big. He's fast. He can cross in the box. I think he's an immediate impact. I just see it as like, oh, how can we call ourselves a big club when we're sitting here farting around over 7 mil difference and we're offering players and etc. It's just it's embarrassing at some point because you saw Arsenal dilly dallying. They wanted their man. They're farting around over 15 mil. Well, guess what? Now your rival came and scooped them up. That's the problem. You play around too long. I mean, I'm surprised Chelsea hasn't tried to come and scoop up Pedro Porro because Reece James is out.
It's
Why
early
not?
days. There's still 13 days left for them to do that.
They're probably
Oh, they're
they're
very
probably waiting for deadline day because they know we'll wait that long. We'll push this that long, and that's just the problem.
Yeah, they're eager. They would love to swoop in and ruin another fellow London club's transfer hopes. What did you make of my kind of scenario there, Philip? Where we all know the major reason is, of course, the board and the way that they sort of operate around these transfers. But could part of the reason be why they might not be triggering that clause or actually going after Porro could be because maybe they are thinking about sacking Conte and is Pedro
Yeah.
Porro the one that Pochettino wants or Tuchel wants? They don't know that. So maybe
Or,
that's why
or,
they're kind
or,
of waiting.
or it could be the old Paratici trick of juggling several balls in the air. Make out we're going after one player when we're actually going after another one. We could be going after Dumfries for all we know. Even though he's slightly older, but I don't know. It is a point in you don't want to spend 45 million on the player, sack the manager, and then find a new manager who doesn't like him. This is the and
Well,
you
that's what we
can't
did with
really
Emerson. That's what we did with a lot of these players. We just bought who
but
we thought we did.
you can't really go after the new guy and say, listen, we're about to sack Antonio Conte. Do you like this player? I think if that ever got out, it'd be a bit of an outcry. So it's a good point, Jack, and it could well be the way that we're going, that they're stalling because of the uncertainty over the manager. And well, we've only got 13 days left to sort it out, whatever way they're going to do it.
It's just it's not an excuse or anything that I'm coming up with here. It's just more like maybe there's the regular explanation that everybody hammers home, which is just it's the way they operate. It's the classic bad habits that they use. And that's, usually the explanation. I am thinking, though, because they are sort of making hints about getting rid of Conte, or at least making hints about not fully backing him because they're hesitant about sticking with Conte. Perhaps these sort of players that are very maybe specific to his system or very specific to his sort of formation, they're now maybe, sort of not exactly so keen to maybe bring them in case they end up sacking him in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Because I feel like, too, in the past, we've made this mistake where we did end up buying a player that was probably for the previous manager that we ended up only sacking 2 months after we bought the player in. And it feels like Spurs have made that mistake in the past where we have a bunch of players from previous rebuilds, previous managers, previous projects. And I don't know, like, I'm not going to say that they're doing a good thing by avoiding, if that's the case, if they're trying to avoid a mess or avoid a mistake of bringing in a guy for a specific manager only to sack that manager 2 weeks later, that would be a mistake. And so I'd be happy if they're avoiding that. But I also feel like they could just be classically dragging their heels here. Like it's tough to know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think you were talking about earlier is the fact that there's always so many conflicting reports. We don't know what's real, what's fake anymore. And I think that plays right into the club's hands.
Exactly. The club are probably putting out half the stories themselves to cause confusion. It's divide and conquer. It's
feels like that Conte wanting more money one seems like one. If anything would be put up with it. Like you said, he's already the most paid manager as it is. So
he's third on the list. I think Klopp and Aguirre and Pep are ahead of him. He's third.
Lads, I'm just going to ask kind of a bit of a sort of segue sort of question just to kind of end it off here, because we have like a bit of regular news that we'll just sort of touch on to sort of end thing, officially off. But yeah, this is kind of the last question of the evening, and it can be short, it can be easy, but if you had a choice in case Antonio Conte were sacked tomorrow, the two likely candidates are Pochettino or Thomas Tuchel. Who are we going for? Jacob, Pochettino, Tuchel?
If I absolutely have to choose, I say neither. But if I absolutely have to choose, I'm gonna say Tuchel because at least it doesn't feel like 4 years of wasted time. You know, at least it's not much better. I don't know. This is kind of really making a hard choice because it's like Pochettino shows that we've gone nowhere and that Pochettino doesn't respect himself. If he came back under these managers, how much respect could you really have for yourself? Because you did that whole thing in the press conference. Maybe I'm just a coach and not a manager. Maybe this isn't my team, etc., etc. You're gonna do all that, but you're gonna come back and still do the thing for the same owner. I know y'all are buddies, but he did you wrong. He didn't back you, made you look bad, and you're gonna come back to the same thing. It's just at least Tuchel. I hate the guy. He looks like Skeletor. I think he's a punk ass bitch for what he did to Conte at full time. I'd fight the motherfucker myself if I had the chance. I don't want him managing my team, but at least it's different than Pochettino, which I love. Poch, the vibes, the history, it's all there. But come on, we got to go in a direction.
I think I agree with you. I'd rather see at the moment, right? I want to see Pochettino back at the club, but not now. I can see him coming in at the next managerial change as long as the other players that caused him the problem have gone. Because there's no way he's going to come back to Eric Dyer. They'll probably have a punch up on the halfway line the first day at work. Tuchel, no, I mean, if he comes, he comes. I don't want him. I don't really want him. And there's one guy that was mentioned somewhere along the way, and he's been kind of out of work since before the World Cup, is Jogi Löw, the ex-German manager. Somebody mentioned him as an interesting possibility.
Yeah, he likes the turtlenecks and enjoys a good nose picking.
So, who knows? But Pochettino in 4 years' time, maybe, but not now. And Tuchel, if he comes, and I'll support him, but I don't want him.
I feel like with Tuchel, if I were to make a case for him, would be that he plays a similar shape to Antonio Conte. He likes that 3-4-3 and that 3-5-2 that we saw recently. He does have Premier League experience, recent Premier League experience. That's a big plus. He also was one of the most, if not probably, that had the best run with PSG in the Champions League and did get one of the best tunes, I would say, out of Neymar. And it shows that he can kind of get through to those some of those world-class players. He can kind of speak their language, or he can sort of kind of get the respect that he needs from them in order to get a tune out of them. And also, we have seen he's a very tactically astute guy, and he does know how to be able to beat some of the top minds. I believe at Chelsea as well. I thought his top six, I could be totally BSing here, but his top six record, at least against Guardiola, wasn't that bad. If I'm not mistaken, he definitely got over Guardiola a few times. Felt like, Tuchel was a respectable, like he was a difficult guy to come up against in the Premier League. And Pochettino plays that beautiful scintillating football, but maybe Tuchel sort of could be an easier change because he plays a similar shape, plays a similar sort of system, but it's a bit more expansive, a bit more progressive than Conte's to a degree. And then also maybe just the fact that he has had slightly more success, you could say, than Pochettino. Maybe you would be going for, a better manager in that case. But I would probably rather Pochettino. But when I kind of make that case for Tuchel, I somehow kind of convince myself. But I don't know. They're still going to have to deal with Eric Dyer. They're still going to have to deal with Ben Davies. They're still going to have to deal with Sanchez, all those sort of guys that have caused previous managers the same problems. And I know Sebas here agrees with that because he said if you think any manager can get a tune out of Ben Davies and Eric Dyer and all those guys, best of luck to you. And I agree with that, Sebas, that's for sure. But last bit of news here, everybody. It's just the goalkeeper news. The expectation is that David Raya could cost in the region of £15 million to £20 million, with Spurs, Man United, and Chelsea all interested. That is coming from the Telegraph. Preference on a Hugo Lloris replacement, Philip Bazunu? Are you with me on Bazunu?
I'm still with Bazuma of Southampton. Like, if Southampton get relegated, I don't think he'll stay there. And we should be in for him. He's only 21, 22 years of age, and he's a class goalkeeper, really good goalkeeper. I like the Brentford guy as well, the Brentford goalkeeper.
David Raya. That's
David
what we're
Raya,
talking about.
Good goalkeeper. And also the guy down in Brighton. Is it Sanchez? Is that his name? I can't remember.
Yeah, Sanchez.
Yeah. They're the ones that are in the Premiership. There's a couple that from the World Cup we should be looking at. The Croatian goalkeeper.
Yeah, Livakovic. How important is it for you, that they're good with their feet, Philip? What's the
Oh, they
preference?
have to
Better with
be.
their
They
feet?
have to be. I mean, Hugo has 2 left feet. Always has. It's the one weakness that he's had. He's a great shot stopper usually, unless it's from Bakary Saka. But yeah, it's got to be important. Like, we're playing out from the back. You've got to have a goalkeeper, a sweeper keeper. You've got to have a keeper that can play. And Hugo's footwork and distribution has never been good.
What do you say, Jacob? Prefer a keeper that's good with their feet? Is that a big preference for you? A big priority for you? It is for me.
I think at this day and age of football, it's like you have to have a keeper who can play with the ball at their feet, which sucks because, Hugo's not that guy. I played keeper my whole life. I was never that guy either. And I hated it when you put the ball at my feet. I was liable to make a mistake or two. And so I can understand why he's so frantic sometimes. Because if I had Eric Dyer and Ben Davies and my shoddy footwork, there's no telling what's going to happen. And
You
we
hated
saw
those
that.
back passes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like Philip was saying, if we're gonna play out of the back and that's part of our way of playing, you have to have a keeper who can play out of the back and not take the ball on and not realize there's a man coming right here. I mean, you don't even need peripheral to see that guy was coming, Hugo. And here's the thing is I've been a biggest Hugo defender since I've been a Spurs fan. Anytime people gave him anything, I always had a defense for him. I'm done defending Hugo. It's time. I think a replacement talk. I'm ready to start talking about replacement. But as far as like who I've nailed down, I haven't really. I like Ian Millier from Leeds. I like Jose Saw. He did have a blunder versus Liverpool, that Harvey Elliott
Yeah.
goal. He made him look a little world class there. But I do like Jose Saw. He's got all those capabilities we talked about, and he's also a good shot stopper, in my opinion. I do think Ian Mellier, he possesses a lot of that as well. I like an aggressive keeper. I like a keeper that on a corner, you're willing to put your body on the line to catch that thing. Go and high point the ball and pick it out the air. And Hugo, he's 50-50 if he'll do that. Ian Mellier, Jose Sar, they're guys who will break their bones just to go catch that. And that's what I want to see. Someone who can play with the ball at their feet and be willing to risk their body to make a catch and or save.
I agree with the aggression on the corners because Forster was an absolute tree on some of those corners the other time that he played for us. I thought he was brilliant at just being able to just, parry it away or just stick his huge arm.
6'7",
out.
6'7", you just
so
go
useful.
do this and you're good.
If they can be 6'7" and good with their feet, that would be nice. But they don't grow like that. Not everybody's Manuel Neuer. Not everybody's Manuel Neuer. But I don't know. It's that's for me at least. David Raya, I'm pretty sure he's pretty good with his feet. He looks good with his feet. Doesn't look like he's the best in the league or anything by any stage, but he feels like, he kind of has all the right sort of facets to be a good goalkeeper. He's not really the tallest goalkeeper either, but he does seem to be able to get down well, and he's pretty agile. So I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of good things there, and I'll take a deeper look into him because that seems to be the guy that Spurs are more sort of interested in. I think David Raya is the name that keeps coming up, everybody.
What about the Moroccan goalkeeper? That Moroccan goalkeeper had himself a nice tournament.
Bono.
Yeah.
I think he's at Sevilla too, which is a club that you could poach off him. Sevilla are not doing well this season. You could poach him.
Let's get him.
Let's go get him. Last little thing. This is for you, Philip, and then we're going to plug channels. Shamrock Rovers, 18-year-old midfielder Justin Ferryzai, I'm going to say, or Ferryzai, is training with the Spurs this week. Several other Premier League clubs were tracking the playmaker, and Sampdoria have offered a three-year deal coming from the Irish Examiner. Do you know anything about him? Anything I should know?
Not a lot, only what I read today, and I think, to be honest with the lad, I think he should take the Sampdoria offer, because if he comes to us, he'll probably end up going into the academy and we'll never hear of him again. Whereas Sampdoria obviously have plans for him. If he signed for us, great, but I really can't see if he will. He's supposed to be a very good player. Now, I watch the occasional League of Ireland game, but not too much. But they've obviously seen something in him. But if you've got a concrete offer from Sampdoria, unless Spurs can match it, he'll go to Italy.
And then, Philip, if THFC Till I Die plug, please. Thank you for doing the show with me tonight as well.
Yeah, we've let's just say we had a show earlier on this evening just discussing the situation with Tottenham, which wasn't optimistic. But anyway, yeah, tomorrow we'll do it like yourself, Jack. We're doing a watch along for the City game. Now it'll be a watch along from behind the couch, as far as I know, because it's going to be paper bag time over your head, But hopefully we get something out of it, and we'll have another preview of the Fulham game on Sunday and watch along on Monday. So. Right. THFC till I die. We're hitting the, I think, 1,200 subscribers now, so we're moving up slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely. But we're all here, and thank you, Philip, for helping me out today as well, and getting through this bit of news. And like you said, it's not easy news this week, and it's not the happiest of conversations when it comes to some of the Spurs talking points. That's for sure. But Jacob, thank you for joining me. Thank you for filling in. I'm going to be joining you Friday, man. But we have a question. We have a question for the baby, or for the son. Jacob, how does your son feel about Adama Traore? Have you passed on your love of Adama Traore to your son? Does he know who Adama is yet?
I tried to, Jack, and Carl. I really tried to. He's a little bit smarter than me, so he can see beyond the way that he fills out a shirt, and he can see that he had an awful game versus Liverpool. Also, whenever the transfer window, we were heavily linked with him. I was constantly covered in baby oil, so my son hated it. I couldn't hold him. He's slipping through my arms, dropping him everywhere. It's a mess. So he hates Adama. Actually, he's with most Spurs fans. He hates Adama. But thank you for having me. Yeah, Jack. And every Friday we have a show on United Spurs of America. Love having Jack and David on when they can make it. Always trying to have a guest. If not, Michael and I, the other half of United Spurs of America, we like to keep it fun and have a good time while still being, realistic and talking about things. I will say also, if you do come to United Spurs of America, my son will not be screaming when I do my shows. It's just a little bit of I'm a stay-at-home dad, so. Yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and he didn't want to leave me alone because I'm still sad about Arsenal, and he knows I'm still sensitive right now, so he just wanted to be here for me.
I think he found out about Harry Kane today, and it's just no one's happy. Let's be honest.
Pain, nothing but pain.
He was expressing what we all were feeling inside. But everybody also as well, if you're looking maybe for something to watch Friday, I'll be over on Jacob's channel as well, having a good time. So catch me over there. You'll be seeing that in the community section too. So don't you worry, everybody. But really do appreciate everybody that tuned in for this one. Hit that like button on the way out, especially if you did enjoy this kind of news evening headlines. Tomorrow, pre-match build-up. I think Philip is joining me for that one tomorrow. I'll be seeing you tomorrow, Philip, for the pre-match build-up, all that good stuff. Watch along tomorrow with Sean. And we'll try to get a post-match fan show out. It might be really, really late, but we'll try to do it if we can. Friday, we'll have a fan show. Don't worry about that. So that's what I will, let you know. That's on the hemisphere for coming up soon. Really do appreciate you all tuning in for this one. Like I said, appreciate you all just hanging out with us and going through the news with us and having a good chat and all that good stuff. But we'll be seeing you tomorrow for the Man City game, everybody, for the watch along and all that other shows. But for now, come on, you Spurs, at least for me. And Conte,
come on, you Spurs.
We will be seeing you.
Everywhere we go.